Hey everyone, King Miami here with Sassy Baby, and today we're going to be
Hi!
learning to script your first mini game in Meta Horizon World. Let's go.
Yay!
All right, so these are the class notes for today's minigame. It's a very simple game. Basically, we're going to have these rings that we will throw objects or balls, in this case M&Ms for Sassy, through. Every time you throw a one through the ring, it'll give you some points, and you'll have 60 seconds to throw as many balls through the ring so you can get as many points as you can. So we're going to cover how to set up the balls, the rings, the scoring, a scoreboard, game manager, a leaderboard, as well as try to prevent some anti-cheating mechanics as well into the game. So let's go ahead and get started.
With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and grab um, what Sassy has done here and just copy everything except the M&Ms. She likes M&Ms. I'm just gonna do regular kind of like balls, like baseballs, but I will copy I will copy everything else here and bring it over here. So we each have our own little version and we can each work on them. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so first things first, we are going to start with the rings. So we're going to get into edit mode. And so the way we can register when a ball or an object, I'm going to create like baseball sized. So again, when someone throws the ball through the hoop or through the ring, I want that to register a point, right? So to do this, we need to set up the rings. We're going to do this first. So to set up the rings, one way we can detect an object going through is by creating a trigger um, that we'll put in the middle of this ring. And so when the ball hits that trigger, it will go ahead and the trigger can recognize that, and then we can count that as a point. So to do this, we're going to go to our Gizmos tab. We're going to grab a script, empty script, and then also we'll leave that there to the side. We're going to go back to our gizmos in build menu, and we're going to grab a trigger, and we're going to make this trigger pretty much the side of the inside of this ring. So we're going to expand it a little bit. We're going to center it. Then we're going to minimize the width of it. And then we're going to place it like right in the ring. I got to make this a little bit smaller because I just need it to be pretty much like that, just to cover that circle inside. So something like that. Drag that down a little bit, drag that up a little bit, like that, and like that. So now we have a trigger that's lined on the inside rim of our ring here for the yellow. I'm just gonna, we're gonna leave that there. And we're not gonna do that for the other rings yet, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna create the script for this trigger, and then we're gonna attach that script to this trigger, and then we will duplicate that trigger and then place it, resize it for the small ring and resize it for the medium ring. And that way each trigger has the same script. So we don't have to write multiple scripts, and we don't have to do the extra couple steps to um, put a copy a new trigger and then add the script, copy a new trigger and then add the script again, etc. All right. So how you doing, Sassy? Good? That looks good
Good.
to me. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and open up the script. We're gonna name this um, rings. I will name mine Rings Miami, so I can run my script, and you can leave yours as Rings Sassy, and you can run your script. So we just named that. All right. So what we want this to do is, since this is running on a trigger, we want to go to the Events tab. We're going to scroll down. That's the default tab that's open whenever you open a script. And as we scroll down, we will see an option under, where is it? Object collision events section. And we'll have an option here that says when trigger is entered by object. So we're going to grab that code block and we're going to bring it over to this left side. And now this is an event. An event means something happened, and now I can start a chain of actions. So when trigger is entered by object, that's good. We want something to happen, right? So what we want to happen is we want to increase a score. So we have to create a number variable to be our score. So the way we do this, we go to this right side of the build menu and we go all the way to the right to the variable section. We're going to click on this new variable and it gives us this little menu here. We're going to type the name. We're going to call it score. All right. And it is a number type. So we'll leave it as number. It is not a list. So leave that toggled off and now just click confirm. So now we have a score variable, right? All right, so again, when trigger is entered by object, we want to increase the score. So how do we do this? We're going to go to the values tab. That's right next to the current tab that we're in. So the values tab, our favorite code block, which is the very first one, is set to in the values page. So we're going to drag that out and put that right underneath when trigger is entered by object. Good, Sassy?
Great.
All right. So when trigger is entered by object, we have set variable to value. So we have two empty pills here. So we're going to set the variable. So we're going to go back to our variables tab and we're going to grab that score variable that we created and we're going to plug that into the left side into the set variable. So now it's to say set score to, and now we have an empty value there. Good? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So for the value part that's empty, we're going to go to the operators tab and under the basic operations section, there's a plus sign. We're going to grab this plus sign and we're going to stick it in the empty value section. And now we should have an A plus B. So in the A, we're going to copy the score. So we're going to click on it, long click on it, hold it, and then put it over the A and thumbstick to the right, and that will duplicate that variable into the A slot. And then we need to add something in the B slot, which will be a number, which will be the number 1. So to get a number, an empty number, we go to the values tab again. We scroll all the way down, and we should see a value input section. And we're going to grab the number input, and we're going to drag that into the B slot. And you see it's defaulted to 0. So we're just going to click in there and we're going to change it to 1. And now the way it should read is when trigger is entered by object, set score, which is a number variable that we created, which is defaulted to 0. We're going to set score to score plus 1. So basically what that means, it's 0 plus 1. So now score is equal to 1. And then when the trigger is entered again by an object, it's going to take 1. It's going to say set score to 1 plus 1, which is now 2. Then again, when it gets entered by another object again, it's going to set score, which is currently 2, to 2 plus 1, which now score turns 3. So that's what's happening here. Every time the trigger is entered by the object, we're going to add 1 to the current numerical value of score. Cool. How are we doing, Sassy? You good on that part?
Yeah, doing great.
Awesome. All right.
Wonder where we stop at.
So we have that. All right. We want to, let's do a debug print so we can just kind of test the score to make sure it's going up. So to do a debug print in that same values tab menu, we are going to go under the debugging. There's a debug print option. And we're going to drag that and put that right underneath the set score to.
Wait, where's that at?
So in your build menu, you're going to go to the values section, the values tab, and then you're going to scroll down to debugging category, or yeah, there's debugging and then the comment. Are you in the values page?
I'm a little lost on that.
All right, so where you got your set to, remember where you got your set to? That's the values page. And where you got the empty numbers, that's also the values
Oh,
page.
Okay.
So there's a
So what do we hit?
debugging portion.
Oh, okay. Sorry. See, yeah.
Yeah. So you drag the debug print, and we're going to put that underneath the set score. And then you see it says debug print and then a message. We can go ahead and drag the score and duplicate that score into that message empty area. And now we're going to be debugging print. We're going to debug print the score. Good.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is just the initial test. So we're gonna go ahead and finish setting up the trigger for the ring. So we're gonna go back to the trigger. I'm going to lock this ring so I stop selecting it on accident. And then so I can select just the trigger. So I'm gonna open up the properties panel to the trigger. If you guys at home don't know how to do that, you're going to put your selector into the trigger and then push up on the thumbstick, and you'll notice that this menu pops up. This is the properties panel for the trigger. Once we have the properties panel for the trigger open, you'll notice at the bottom we have a reference pill that says trigger in blue, and then we have an attached script. Excuse me, and then we have an attached script drop down. We're going to click on that drop down, and we have a couple different scripts we can choose from. I'm going to choose Rings Miami. Sassy over here is going to choose Rings. So we'll go ahead and click on it. And then now this trigger is running the Rings Miami script. And you can see the score is defaulted to 0. We're going to leave that as is. Cool. Were you able to attach your script?
Perfect.
All right. So we're not done here on the properties panel. We have in the middle, we have enabled. We're going to leave that as on. And then we have trigger on players or trigger on objects tag. We're going to switch this from players to objects tag. So this trigger is no longer will have the capacity to detect players, which is good. We don't want it to detect players. We're going to want it to detect our objects that we're throwing through it. So we switch it to objects tagged. Now it's asking for an object tag. So this object tag is the name of or the tag that we're going to name right now in a second of the object. So different objects, you can name them different things. And only if it has the correct name when it goes through the trigger will it register. So to be clear, even though I have objects, even though we set this trigger to detect objects, it will only register an event if it's correctly named or correctly tagged. That means the same. Named and tag is the same thing here in this case. All right, so we're gonna go ahead in this pill that says object tag. We're gonna put a name here. So we're gonna put we're just gonna go ahead and put ball. We're gonna keep it simple, BALL. So now the object tag is ball. So now it's gonna trigger on the objects that are tagged with the name ball. So if I put any other object through this trigger that doesn't have the name ball on it, it's not gonna work. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and let's test it. So let me stop the world real quick. I'm gonna play it. And so now the score should debug print up as we throw something through it. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my ball throwable. So interactive, physics. Okay, so now look, I'm gonna go into preview mode. I'm gonna grab this ball and I'm gonna throw it through. And nothing is going to happen because we have not yet set up the balls. So if I put it through like 3 or 4 times, just to kind of prove the point, if I go into the menu here, you notice there's no debug prints of the score. Nothing is showing up because I did not yet tag the ball. That's going to be what we'll do next. So to show you that, you're going to open up the properties panel of the object, in this case, the ball, and in Sassy's case, her M&Ms. And once you open up this properties panel, you're going to see a option at the top. We have behavior, attributes, and gameplay tags. We're going to click on the gameplay tags option and we're going to name it ball. So it says gameplay tag. We're going to change this none to ball. So now it is tagged with the name ball. Got that, Sassy?
Yeah.
All right, so now watch this, guys. As I throw this through the ring, that's 1 and 2 and 3. So now if I go to look at my debug print in the console, there it is. 1, 2, and 3. Let's see if it works for Sassy. Oh, she missed. Try again. Oh, there it is. She made it, and there it is. So she got her score is 1 right there. It just popped up. Perfect. So she's got it working. We got it working. So that's how we set up the trigger, and the trigger is to correspond to the correctly tagged object, which in this case we named it as ball, and it's this one. And actually, I only have 1, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate one more. So now I have 3 balls, and now these will work as well because they are duplicated with their tags. And you can see here now my score is up to 5. Cool. All right, we're doing great. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cross this one off as done. We're going to cross the first 2 off as done for now, the rings and the ball, because now we have a score that's working, and now we're going to go next to the scoring part. Okay. All right, so now that we know that our trigger works and it is registering every time one of our ball goes through it, we're going to go ahead and take this trigger. We're going to duplicate it, so you can go ahead and right thumbstick to the right, and we're going to grab the trigger that's in here and just pull it out, and now it is duplicated. As you can see, there's the original one there still, and I have this one. I'm going to go ahead and resize it to fit this medium-sized circle. A little bit smaller. That's about right. All right, we're going to put it there. And we're going to lock that ring in place for a second. Now I'm going to duplicate this medium circle, and we're going to resize it to fit into the smallest of the 3 circles here. Perfect. All right, so now we have the 3 ring circles with the triggers that detect the balls. We really don't have to test this, but I'll just show you guys at home that it will now work for all circles. So put it through the green one, put it through the orange one. Oh, missed. All right, through the yellow, and then the last one through the orange. So now I should have 3 points. Go into the console, and let's see, 1. Okay, so the reason, and this actually is going to segue us to the scoring section. The reason that we see 1, 1, 2, 2 ones and 2s is because the way that we wrote the script, each trigger has its own variable of score. So I threw the ball through the yellow ring once, so it printed out 1. I threw a ball through the green ring once, so it printed out 1, not instead of 2, because I haven't thrown a ball through the green ring yet. And then when I threw a ball through the orange ring, again, that was the first time I threw the ball through the orange ring, so each one is showing 1. The reason you saw 2 here, that's most likely that's on rings on trigger, which is Sassy. So she threw the ball twice through the same ring and whatnot. But so that's what we're going to do now in scoring. We don't want each trigger to keep track of its own points. We want that when I score a point, that gets registered onto one single score, right? So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so to do this, we are going to introduce the game manager. Even though we're not going to fully talk about the game manager right now, we are going to introduce it. So a game manager is going to be the object and the script that's going to take care of pretty much the whole flow, essence, and tracking of the game. That's what we call it, the game manager. So in this case, what I like to do is I like to grab a snap destination. So we go to our gizmos tab and build, and it's towards the bottom, the snap destination object. And this is what we're going to use to be our game manager that we're going to run the script on. So we're going to just kind of make it a little bit, resize it so for it to be a little bit bigger. And we're going to put it right here. And now this will have its own script. So I'm going to take out a script, a brand new script, and I'm going to name the script Game Manager. All right, so we have our Game Manager. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to our Snap Destination. Open the Properties panel on the Snap Destination object, and I'm going to attach the script Game Manager. Okay. Good, Sassy?
Yeah, I'm typing in game manager right now. Okay.
All right. Perfect.
So after we type in game manager, what is it?
You're going to go back to the Snap Destination object, open the Properties panel, and attach that Game Manager script to it.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So in essence, what we're about to script right now is I want, every time I score a point on one of these triggers, I want the trigger to not even need to keep track of the score, but to send an event say to the game manager saying, I got scored on, or basically a scored is registered. So we're going to send, the yellow ring will send an event to the game manager every time there's a score. The green ring will send an event to the game manager every time there's a score registered, and same thing for the orange ring. Every time I am able to throw the ball through this orange ring, it's going to not change the score. It's going to send an event to the game manager. From there, the game manager is going to be the script that will update the score. So right now we tested it with the triggers. It works, but we're going to change our script for the rings in a second to send an event to the game manager instead of updating a score. Okay. All right. So once we have this script attached to the game manager, we're going to go open the script, the game manager script. We're going to start here. And we're going to start with an event when event is received. So we're going to pull that out. And so when my event is received, my event is a default. It's always great to name your events. So we're going to change this. So we're going to change this to a new event, and we get to name it when we click on new events. So now it's asking for an event name. I'm going to go ahead and name this score. You can just name it score. All right. So when score is received with, and then there's an option for parameter. We are actually going to use a parameter. You don't have to, but we're going to, because what I want to do is I want to give each ring a different value. So the bigger ring will be like, I don't know, 5 points, the medium will be 10 points, and the green will be like 25 points, for example. We can have different sets of values. So every time it will send an event to the game manager saying, there was a score registered and my value is worth 15. Orange will say my value is worth 20. Green will say my value is worth 50, for example. They can be whatever values. So the reason I'm bringing that up now is because in the script for the game manager, we have when score is received with, so we're going to actually add a new param, which is short for parameter. We're going to click on that. So when score is received with, and we're going to click on new param, and it's going to ask us for a name. We're going to call it points. We're going to name this parameter points, and then it's going to ask us for the type. We're going to leave it as number because we are going to receive a number, and it is not a list. It's just a single number. And we're going to click confirm. So what this means is that when score is received with a value, which is a number in this scenario, it can be an object, it could be a player, it could be a list, it could be a lot of parameters. There's a lot of different options here: Boolean, vector, rotation, color, string, ASCII. It could be basically it's an event that's being received with information, a packet of information. In this case, that packet of information comes in the form of a number, which would be the value of the ring that is sending it to us, because each ring will have its own value. So we have when score is received with, and then points, the parameter that it's being delivered to with, we want to do something. So here we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to create a variable in the variables tab, and we're going to call it score. Because remember how we updated the score in the trigger? Well, we're not going to update the score in the trigger anymore. We're going to update it in this game manager. So we're going to call it a new variable, call it score. It's a number type, and we're going to click confirm. So now we have the score variable. How are we doing, Sassy?
Doing great.
Awesome. All right. So now when score is received with points, what do we want to do? Now we want to update the score.
But I think it's getting huge. Like even
Well,
from
you can make
small,
it
it's
smaller. So you click on the all right, so to make your menu smaller, you click on the top of the script and you can like drag
yeah,
hold it, right? And then you'll
yeah.
have this option to the left thumbstick on your controller to scale it down. And you can make it very small or you can make it very big by scaling up. Do you see that option?
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you for teaching me that.
You're welcome. All right, so time in. Okay. So when score is received with points, we want to go to values and get the set to code block. That's always going to be pretty much a staple here that we're always going to use. So we're going to set variable to value. So in this case, we're going to set the score variable that we created in this game manager, and we're going to set it to, we're going to grab the plus from the basic operations again from the operators tab or operators page. We're going to put that in the value area. And just like we did before with the trigger, we're going to do set score to score plus points in this scenario. Before we did score plus 1, but now we're going to do score plus points because points can be 5 points, it can be 10 points, it can be 50 points, depending on what we set the values on the triggers that are sending the event score with their points, which we haven't done yet. We're going to do that next. Okay, so now when score is received with points, we're going to set the variable score, which is a stored number that we have here, to the current score plus the points that came in. Got it? We understand that? Good, Sassy? Good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a debug print. So we're going to go back to the values page, and we're going to grab the debug print, and we're going to debug print message score. All right, so pretty much almost exactly what we had for the trigger, but now we have it on a single game manager that is receiving the event score. All right, so that is good to go for now. But what we have to do now is we got to this is waiting for an event called score, and it's waiting for a value with points. So we need to get it over there, and we need to send it from the trigger. So the way we do that is we're going to go back to our rings script. We're going to open up our rings script. And as you can see, we have pretty much the same thing, set score to score plus 1 and then debug print score. We're going to delete both of those things. So we're basically back to square one with when triggers entered by object. So now when triggers entered by object, we want to do one single thing, which is send event to object. So that is under our events page. And we're going to do send event to object under the event actions section. So we're going to go ahead and place that underneath when triggers entered by object. We're going to send my event to self. Well, we do not want to send my event, and we do not want to send it to self because self is this trigger. We want to send it to the game manager. So let's do that. How do we do that? We're going to create another variable in our variables tab, create new variable, and the type is object. So let's change that first before we name it. So this is an object type, and we're going to call it GM, short for game manager, GM. And it's not a list, it's one single object. So we click confirm, and now we see we have like this teal pill that has like a cube, and it says GM. We're going to take that GM variable and we're going to put it over self. Send my event to self. Instead of self, we're going to send it to GM. All right. And so now it should read send my event to GM. Well, we don't want to send my event to the game manager. We want to send score. So we're going to click on that my event. You'll see a drop down of different events that we can send. and we're going to pick the score one. All right. So when trigger is entered by object, send score to game manager. We're not done yet, almost done, but it says with and then an empty new param. And in this case, the game manager does need the points value. So we can't send it just like this. It won't work. We have to send it with the numerical points because that's the way we set it up. So we're going to go ahead and just grab the score variable that we used. We're just going to be a little bit lazy and we're just going to use that. And we're going to put that in, plug it in as the new param. So now it should read when trigger is entered by object, send score to game manager with score, a number. And you can see over here, it's set to 0. Cool. Got that, Sassy?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, we can actually close this now, this script. Now, to give each ring a different value, we can go to the trigger. So let's go to the big trigger first. And Sassy, you can give these however many points you want. So let's open up the properties panel of the big trigger on the big ring. And you'll notice here we have GM at the very bottom under the attached script. We have GM is empty. So it's sending the event to GM, but I didn't tell the script what is GM. So I need to plug in a pill here. So we're going to leave this property panels open, and we're going to go to the game manager property panel, the snap destination that is the game manager. We're going to open this up, and let's just do one thing. Instead of snap destination, we're just going to delete that name at the very top of the properties panel of the snap destination. We're going to delete the name snap destination, and we're just going to call it game manager. That way it's easy to understand. Okay. So now we change the name to game manager, and you notice the pill at the bottom, the reference pill, is also been changed to game manager. And it's running the game manager script. Okay. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that pill that says game manager on the properties panel. We're going to hold on to it, and we're going to plug it into the GM of the trigger properties panel. And now we just made a connection, and you see the string that's connected because now it is sending the event to the game manager, which is connected like here, which is the snap destination. How are we doing over here?
I'm a little lost on the bringing the game manager to what?
So open up the properties panel to the trigger.
Okay.
All right. And you see how it says that it's, yeah, get the trigger.
Okay.
All right. So you see how it's asking for a game, a GM. It's empty on the reference
Bring
pill.
that there.
Yeah. So grab the one from the game manager and plug it in, and then you should see a line connected.
Okay, like that.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Now we're not done yet with the leave the game manager properties panel open because let's do the exact same thing for the other two triggers. We need to connect those two. So open up the properties panel for this trigger. You can see GM is empty. I grab the reference pill from the game manager and plug it in, and it makes that connection. And now let's do it for the last trigger over here. Open up the properties panel. You can see that GM is empty, so I need to go ahead, grab the reference pill, plug it in, and now all three triggers are plugged into the game manager. Actually, I need to leave these trigger property panels open for a second. Let me know when you have them all connected,
Got
Sassy.
them all.
All right, so let's go back to the properties panel for the big trigger. And everything looks good. But now you can see after we connected GM, you can see how we have our score is defaulted to 0. So now since what's happening now is when I throw the ball through the big ring, it's going to send score event to the game manager, and the game manager is going to add the score plus the value that we're sending it. The value that we're sending it is that parameter. And if you remember in the ring script, the parameter that we're sending is score, which is defaulted to 0. So here in the triggers properties panel, we can manually change that 0 to a number. So I'm gonna change it to 10. So instead of it being 0 here in the properties panel, I'm gonna change it to 10. So now the big ring is connected to the game manager, and the score is I manually set the value to 10. Got it?
Mhm.
All right, so now we're gonna go to the medium size ring, open up the properties panel, and you see that one is defaulted to 0. Well, I don't want to send the event with 0 points. I want to send it with, I'm gonna say 20 points. So now I put the value for the medium trigger to 20 points. So it's gonna send an event to the game manager with the value of 20. And then the game manager will add 20 points to my total score. And then for the small ring, I'm going to just do 50. So I think we have 10. In my case, I have 10, 20, 50. And there we go. So now I just change the score on my small trigger to 50. All right. And we can actually test now. So I'm going to stop the world, clear the console. Make sure you clear your console, Sassy, as well. Because anytime the world is running and we're doing changes in scripts, there'll be a bunch of errors. So make sure your console is clear. And now let's go ahead. Let's go give it a test. So let me throw that one there. Oh, I'm missing. All right, here we go. So that's one. Come on, 50. All right. So let me see here. So we have a lot of things going on here. Well, me and Sassy and I were both debugging printing. So that's why you see some different numbers here. But I made a yellow one and I made a green one. So I have a total of 60. And it looks like Sassy has a total of 30, if I'm reading this correctly. All right. But let me just try me, Sassy, for a second, and then we'll try you. All right, so let's see. The bottom one, I gave it 10. So that should be 10 points. Then the medium one, I think I give it 20. So that should be 30 points. And then plus 50 should be 80 points. So if I go to my console, there it is. There's my 10-point score. And then it added 20. So there's my 30-point score. And then it added 50. So there's my 80-point score. So we got it working perfectly, and it's sending the event to the game manager. All right, so let's try you, Sassy. Hold on, let me stop. I'm gonna restart the world. All right, go ahead. Yeah, clear your console and go ahead. All right, she made 10. She made 20.
Slam
And
dunk.
she made 30. So she has 10, 20, and 30. So she has 60 points. Awesome. It worked great. And you saw how she was cheating. We're going to cover that under game fidelity to make sure people can't just cheat like that, Sassy.
Aww. It was a slam dunk.
Yeah, I saw that. That was that was cool. Maybe we should have done a basketball game. But all right, so the scoring is done. So let's count that as completed. We have the scoring down.
Yay!
Yep, on the game manager. All good. So now,
Reverse the way over there.
yep.